Hi, I'm Matt, and let's get spooky.
Previously on Let's Get Spooky.
Hey, what are you doing? Are you throwing those away again?
They're really spooky. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. Hey. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. We'll be discussing my favorite stories from the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book series. And these are in no particular order, so if you're expecting a Watch Mojo top 10 list, you've come to the wrong place, my friend. So, starting off, we have The Big Toe. Now this one's probably the strangest story from the series. It starts off with a little boy innocently digging at the edge of his garden, when he stumbles across a large toe sticking out of the ground. And the boy is like, "Oh sweet, a toe, I love this shit." And he takes it home to his mom and she's like, "You found a human toe buried in our garden? Well, nothing to look into there. How about instead of calling the police, we eat it?" And the little boy is like, "Yay, cannibalism!" So that night after the little boy eats the mystery toe, he hears a voice calling out to him from across the street. "Where is my toe?" it goes. The boy tries to ignore it, but it keeps calling out to him, asking for its toe. He hears the creature move through his yard, into his house, and up to his bed. Then it asks again where its toe is, because the little boy's being a dick and not answering. And then it grabs the little boy, screaming, "You got it!" And that is the big toe. So when I was a kid, my dad used to tell me the story about a golden arm, even before I had these books. The golden arm is about this guy whose wife has a prosthetic arm made from gold. And the wife dies and gets buried with her golden arm. So the husband thinks, that arm is probably worth some money. And the PlayStation 5 did just come out. So he devises a plan to take it. So one night he heads out, digs up his dead wife, and steals her golden arm, like the loving husband he is. The end of the story plays out just like the big toe, with the dead coming back and looking for what was taken from them. So when I got these books and saw essentially the same story but told in a creepier and more disturbing manner, I was one giddy mother effer. The story itself is pretty freaky, but what I think really draws people in is the picture. A little boy tending to his garden with a human toe sticking out of the ground, insinuating that there's a dead body just buried inches below the soil. It brings up many questions like, why is there a body there? The toe looks pretty fresh, so was someone just missing the beach and just had someone bury them in the garden instead? And then this kid comes along and cuts off this relaxing guy's toe like a dick. Or was someone just recently murdered and buried in a shallow grave there? Did the mom have something to do with it, which is why she was so nonchalant about eating that toe for dinner? Did she want to destroy the evidence? I don't know. That mom is sounding pretty sus to me. And that's probably why I like the big toe more than I like the golden arm. Because of the questions. Because of the unknown. With the golden arm, sure, it's a little silly and impractical to have an arm made from gold, but it could happen. I mean, it'd be pretty freaking stupid, but it could happen. And if it did happen, it's not too hard to believe that someone would be greedy enough to try to steal it from a dead person. But with the big toe, what's up with the casual attitude towards cannibalism? Like seriously, what the hell? Knock that crap off. Greed is one thing, like in the golden arm, we all see greed every day. Sadly, it's not too crazy of a concept. But cannibalism? That's a huge no for me, bro. Especially how the family didn't even question eating the toe. I mean, it'd be one thing if the little kid was like, "Hey mom, I found this huge potato in the garden." And the mom was like, "Cool, let's have it for dinner tonight." But instead the little boy was like, "Hey mom, I found these human body parts outside. Let's eat them." Because that's what normal people do. And I think this is why I like this story so much. None of it makes sense. And then there's Oh, Susanna. This story is about two girls, Susanna and Jane, who live together near their college. Susanna's lying in bed one night, trying to sleep. But she wakes up to who she believes is Jane, humming the tune to the song Oh, Susanna. So Susanna gets mad and tells Jane to knock that crap off or she's gonna smack her in the mouth. But the humming continues on and off throughout the night. Susanna finally loses her temper and jumps out of bed, telling Jane that her mouth better get ready, cause it's about to get smacked. She rips off Jane's blanket, revealing Jane's headless corpse. Pretty spooky. So when you hear the song Oh Susanna, or hear a story about a serial killer loose on a college campus, what do you think the picture would be? Maybe an old-timey guy prowling a university? Or maybe some Jack the Ripper type guy hanging out inside a dorm room? Has to be something like that, right? Wrong. The picture is just a mishmash of awesomeness. You have a creepy looking guy in a rocking chair lassoing a bloody comet of some sort with an elongated skull reaching down like "Ah! Ah!" And I think that's why I like this story so much. I mean, sure, it's a freaky story about something that could happen. And similar situations have happened with serial killers like Ted Bundy and Edmund Kemper. But it's really the illustration that gets me. I have no idea what's going on, and I love it. And finally, the last story I want to discuss tonight is the Windigo. The story of the Windigo starts out with a man heading up to northern Canada on a hunting expedition. He's looking for a guy to help him on his trek, but no one's willing to do it, except for this down-on-his-luck fella named DeFago. So the hunter and DeFago head off to the wilderness together, hopefully holding hands, but probably not. And things aren't off to a good start. A winter storm comes in, so the hunter and DeFago stay cuddled inside their tent as they hear the wind blowing and the trees whipping all around. The hunter gets curious and takes a look outside, but to his surprise, everything is calm. However, he still hears the wind going crazy. He listens for a second, but the more he listens, the more it sounds like the wind is calling DeFago's name. The hunter looks back at DeFago, who looks all freaked out. Then DeFago hops to his feet and runs out the tent. And the story doesn't specify whether or not he was naked, but I'm gonna assume he was. Anyway, the hunter tries to stop him, but DeFago's long gone. So the hunter heads out to look for him. He follows DeFago's tracks until he notices that his prints are getting further and further away from each other, until they stop, like something picked him up. So the hunter heads back to civilization and leaves some Pop-Tarts in the tent for DeFago. Once the hunter gets back to the town, the people there tell him that DeFago's more of a toaster strudel kind of guy, and they also tell him about the Windigo, which is a powerful wind that calls out to people, then carries them away at an intense speed until their feet burn off. As they scream, "Ah, my ass! I mean feet! My burning feet of fire!" Then it picks them up and drops them from a great height. So the hunter goes back home, and a year later he's like, since last year went so well, I should do that again. So he heads back up to northern Canada and sees a dude who looks like DeFago. So the hunter runs up to the guy and he's like, "Yo, DeFago, what up?" And then he takes off the dude's hat when he doesn't answer, revealing a pile of ashes. Pretty freaky. And this story sticks out to me because I've never heard of this form of the Windigo legend. I've looked into it and never been able to find anything about a wind spirit that carries you off at ridiculous speeds, burns your feet off, and then drops you from super high. All I've ever been able to come up with regarding the Windigo is a Native American legend about a werewolf-like monster that's brought about after people engage in cannibalism or smoking or something. There's a short story published in 1910 by Algernon Blackwood from the book The Lost Valley and Other Short Stories that shares many similarities to this story, including the title and some character names. However, in this story, the Windigo causes intense hallucinations and delirium, brought on by its foul odor, instead of being an evil spirit in the form of a powerful wind. But something may have been lost in translation there, because these stories are not original content, they are the retelling of folklore. And the way folklore works is fascinating. It's almost like a game of telephone. These stories are passed down through ages, and details change, things get muddled and other things get thrown out, and some things get added in with each retelling, which is how we had the golden arm, but ended up with the big toe. These are two different stories, but they probably have the same source. And if you look at the different stories that are in the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book series, there are different variations of the same story. Stories like The Big Toe, Clinkety Clink, Cemetery Soup, and Just Delicious are all essentially the same story with just a few details swapped out. Someone taking something that doesn't belong to them, something that belongs to the dead, and paying the consequences for those actions. And with that being said, those are my favorite stories from the series. Let me know what yours are down below. And make sure to stop by next time as we look into the 2019 movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Ooh, I hope it doesn't disappoint me! And as always, thanks for being spooky.
Again?